I'm going to create a shared dataset. Now, there is a reason why you might not want to do that, and we'll look at this at the next lecture. The advantage of a shared dataset is that it is available to all of the reports. So you don't have to recreate a dataset in each report. You don't have to recreate a data source in each report either. They can all use just the one. So you define it once, and then if something changes, like for instance, the database, you move from a test database to a production database, then you just change the connection once. So we'll create a shared dataset, and at the end, I'm going to copy and paste the SQL that's resulting. Now, don't worry if you don't know too much about SQL. This course you don't, but if you continue down the SSRS route, you probably do want to learn more about SQL, and I would suggest you to attend at the very least the first 2 sessions of my TSQL course. So let's click Add New Dataset. So we call this a name, so I'm going to call this AdventureWorks Dataset. I'll call it Shared Dataset. You'll see why a few courses later. So I've got 3 different types of source. Stored procedure, so that's where the person who's in charge of the database, that could be you of course, has created a procedure that you just run, and any modifications get made in the database to the SQL text. And that is quite a good way, to be honest. This text here, this is for more ad hoc things, and that's what we're going to be using now. Now, this is where you put in all of your select and from and that sort of thing. But this course, we're not going to do SQL. Instead, we're going to click on the Query Designer. Now, the Query Designer is a graphical interface. And you can see it's got 4 different panes that you can switch on and off up here. We have the diagram pane at the top. We then have the grid pane, which is this one. We then have the SQL code, which is here. And then finally, right at the bottom, we have the results. So let's start designing what we want to see. And I'm going to create a report, which is going to be a very simple report to begin with. It's going to be a list of all of the products that we have in our AdventureWorks database. So the first thing we do in this Query Designer is we add the table. We do that by right and clicking in the diagram pane and add table. And the table I'm going to add is the product, which is actually production.product inside the SSMS. So click add, and there you can see it. So we have a name, so let's add that. So just tick it and notice that it appears down here, and the SQL code is starting to be produced. So what else might we want to call from it? We want a list price, let's say. And is there anything else we might want to add to it? Let's have a sell start date, sell end date, and discontinued date. So this is all information about the product. Now here we can see all 5 items that we've put in. Now, often the names in the tables are not the best user names. They're not what the end user really wants to see. Like for instance, name. Name is fine in the table because we know it's the name of the product. But get it out of the table and the end user won't necessarily know that this is the product name. So let's go into the alias column and type in product name. Now I've put a space in and you'll find that that is perfectly okay. So this is another reason for using aliases. Here we have this column which doesn't have spaces, so I can put sell start date with spaces. And notice all the while the SQL is being developed. So let's run this query as we've got it at the moment. And there are two ways to do that. You can click up here in the diagram page and execute SQL, or we can click this exclamation mark. Now notice what's going to happen in the bottom handmost pane. So you can see we have these 5 items: name, list price, sell start date, sell end date, and discontinued date. Using the user-friendly names, we have 504 records. We can go forward, backwards, and we can go to the end. We can even insert new rows if you've got the right credentials. So you can see none of them are using a discontinued date. They are null. Null means there is no information. It is a don't know. It's not blank. At least blank would tell you something. This is don't know. So the computer has no idea about discontinued dates. So this is a field that we don't want. So what we do is we right and click on the grey next to it in the second pane and go delete. So now you can see the query's changed. If you want it executed again for the latest, we have to click run, and then we get rid of that column. Now notice the list price isn't very helpful. In a lot of cases it's 0. But that's okay, that's the information that we've got. But you can't really see that it's in any particular order. I don't know what order this is. It might be in list price order. No. It's in date order, maybe. So what I want it to be in order of is product name and then that list price name. So we go up here to the sort type and I say I want name to be in ascending order. Notice what happens to sort order immediately I exit. And I want this to be in ascending order, list price. Now we have 1, 2. Does that mean that name goes first and then list price? It does indeed. The lower numbers get executed first, which we'll see if we run. So now product name comes first. If there happens to be a tie with product name, then it would then be sorted on list price. As it happens, all of these product names are unique. These final columns are for filtering the information down. So in other words, I could say I don't want all of this information. I want just all starting with HL. So I could type in here, HL. Will that work? Will that give me everything that starts with HL? The answer is no, because we have this equals HL. What I need to do is to put like HL percentage, like that. And if you don't know why we're using percentages, percentage means any number of characters from 0 onwards, but you need session 1 of my TSQL course if you're unsure about percentages and underscores. But anyway, but in this particular instance I want everything, so let's get rid of the filter. Query changed. You'd think you could left and click on that and just get the updated query, but you can right and click on it instead. Gives you that to execute SQL there, gives you it there, gives you it in a few places. Right, so that is our query. And what I'm going to do, you'll see why in the next lecture, is I'm going to copy this into the clipboard. So that has created our shared data set. Now there's all sorts of options here that we'll be looking at later, but first of all we're just going to create a simple report. So click OK. Notice over here we now have this shared data set created.